finding joy, not just accepting it, but then searching for the joy in the moment too. Because you can accept where you are and still hate it, and but like loving that.
I just observed what we would call inappropriate affect. You're like finding joy. Like your face didn't look very joyful. I'm Psychologist Dr. Bryan Violette, and today I'm talking to Jim and Regina Donahue. They're my longtime friends. Jim is the principal of a Catholic high school, and Regina is an equally impressive mother of 6. We'll be talking about male-female differences across different domains, more specifically work and home. This is the Catholic Tutor Show. Circling back to how play is work without stress, I did want to talk about work with you guys. So, Jim, I want to start with you. So last time we talked, you were counseling in a high school, and then we spoke recently, and suddenly you're the principal. Like, please bridge that for me. What has happened?
I have no idea. They made a terrible mistake. I don't think there was anyone else to take the position. No, I was there. I was at the school for like 9 years. I was like an assistant hockey coach. So I was, I don't know. I was involved in the school in many different ways. And I guess just after being there for 9 years, the previous guy that held my assistant principal job, he was ready to move on. He was ready to, do other things. I think the job definitely, there's a time limit on it. And it was an invitation. He just said, I think you should try it. And I was like,
wow.
He was my supervisor at the time. I respected him. I said, okay. I've never thought in a million years, especially when I was in high school, that I'd be back at a school. And then I was like, okay, I'm a counselor. It's kind of like being in the school. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to be an assistant principal and, telling kids that they should be on time, that they should have good grades, not do bad things. And
do good things and not bad things, kids.
Exactly. So it was really just an invitation, I think, that did it. There's no way I would have thought to do that in any other way. So I don't know. That's kind of what was in my path to get there. It's definitely challenging. There's no doubt. It stretched me career-wise as a person in every single way. So I've been doing it.
Say more about that, though. When you say every single way, what way specifically has it stretched you?
Definitely stretched me just in the simple fact of like the school doesn't start its day without me like getting on the PA system, doing the prayer, pledge, and announcements. And it's like every day you got to be at the same time. And then it extends you after hours too. Like, let's go to the prom. Let's go to the football game. Let's go to all these different events.
Yeah. So you can't within 1 hour's time give the announcements like you would tell Regina, I'll be home. And she has to expect it's an hour either way. That doesn't work at school. You actually have to be there.
Yeah.
And give the announcement at a specific time.
Exactly. Before like the 9 years I was the counselor, it was like, I could call the other counselor, hey, I might be a few minutes late. The kid threw up. Now it's, now it's like, sorry, Regina, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So it's just a tribute to her than it is to anything, and just stretching the family and stretching what we can do and being there. But and then it's just like the kids look to you and it's like, do I have to be perfect? No, that's probably not the best thing, but you feel like you have to be perfect.
Yeah. It's a different level of them looking up to you, isn't it? Like like as you move up in the hierarchy, their dad issues play out with you in a more pronounced way. Like the modeling is so much more important the higher you move up.
Right. And as a counselor, I had the counseling background. It wasn't that hard of a challenge for me to connect with a kid.
Yes. That's so important.
But then when they walk in, it's assistant principal. They don't see, the years of counseling or anything like that. They just see. But it
doesn't matter. It's still a tool in your toolbox. I know in my position working at Catholic Psych, I provide some direct care still, but I'm working there as largely an administrative position. I'm chief of staff there, but my ability to connect with people definitely informs my leadership role.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that.
But the kids aren't expecting to connect with the principal. They do expect when they walk into a counselor's office that they're in search of something that a counselor would give them. So it's a real gift to the students
which is why it's more potent, I think, more powerful.
Absolutely.
They definitely see the transformation. I will say the two principals that I work with, like I definitely need to learn how to like lay down the law a little bit, and they've helped a ton with that. Just because I'm always like, all right, stop being empathic. This is not a counseling session. This is like
the kid actually has to show up to class.
Yeah, he needs boundaries. That's the best thing for him. No is the best thing for him, and so I'm lucky. It's awesome working in this school because there's definitely a community of people that help you. It's not, cool. It's a healthy place. It's come a long way.
It's been a beautiful transformation in him. Absolutely. It's been beautiful. It's been certainly hard. And what I say often is that if I didn't think that this was his true vocation in the school, we would not be doing it because it's very taxing on the family. But it's very clear that he is daily doing the Lord's work in a way that is very fulfilling.
It can't just be his mission, because if it's a choice for him, he has to choose the family over the professional development. But if it becomes a unity in the family around it being a mission, and your wife supports you and knows that not only is Jim sacrificing, but at times Regina has to sacrifice for what God is calling the family to participate in. It reminds me of like soldiers, right? It's like to say to the wife of a soldier, thank you for your service, because you're sacrificing too. That's not recognized enough. And I mean, I know even just starting the show, it's created so much strain on my family in terms of the effort and time that I'm putting in. And I could not. Did you ever see the movie Cinderella Man? I almost kind of wish you guys picked that for a movie. Loved it. And he was gonna box. He was gonna fight, and he says to Renee Zellweger, like, I can't do this if you're not in my corner.
Yes,
I cannot do it if you're not in my corner. And it means everything to him that she is. So it's really beautiful to see, Regina, you coming alongside Jim and supporting that, even though it means you suffer a little more.
Sure. But in a way, and this is truly of the Lord, like in a way that is very good for me, in a very particular way that has purified my heart. It's purified my vocation. Friday nights are a bit harder on the kids. Like he's very rarely home. He's watching other kids play sports, that kind of thing. But no, it's been very good. Hard, but great.
Yeah, and I think that's just something that a lot of us are going to run into in the Catholic world, because it's a position that probably historically was done by a religious person. That they give up a family so that they can do that role. And as lay people move into these different roles, it's like, oh man, it's you better be ready and you better be committed, because it's going to stretch the heck out of you. Because it was done by someone that like they dedicated
had the time.
Yeah.
They had the time. Yeah.
They had the time. Yeah.
Regina, I want to switch to you a little bit. When we last talked, you said that you're on like 100 boards. You're on boards, all these boards. I know, I think this is a bigger question that I have for you, because I know that you have a dimension to your personality that wants to produce. You are a stay-at-home mom, but there's this part of you that has, you have gifts that can be exercised in a professional context. You've prioritized your family life over those gifts, but there's still a part of you that wants to exercise them. And I think probably my guess is as your kids get older, more and more we'll see you entering into the professional realm. But in the meantime, you're spending a lot of time, what would we call it? Consulting with different professional communities? What are you doing?
It's really volunteering for nonprofits that I'm passionate about in a board position, which helps the organization stay on track in their mission. So in a huge way, that is a very motherly role. Keeping people at the heart of a mission, that's a very feminine thing. So when the moment that like money or finances come into play, it's like nobody wants to hear what I have to say. Like that's not my role. But if like the heart of what the organization is doing, like that is something I could do. Or how do we gather the community around this mission? Like I'm really good at throwing a party. Like I can do that, and that's a very great way of serving an organization. So
Yeah.
what's kind of funny about that whole thing is I had such a burning desire for that like production in my heart for a few years, and I felt like I was kind of grasping at it in many different areas where it just like wouldn't work out. And I had this year of it just really worked out. And then when I became pregnant with my 6th baby, I just felt the Lord.
I almost spit out my wine just now.
Yeah, 6th baby.
Baby number 17, I realized.
Well, it was little Miriam. I just had such a different desire to be home with her. In a way, it was just such a gift. Like like the Lord gave me this chance in like this one year where I did produce, and I saw like a ton of fruit to that quote unquote worldly production. And then I was like, wait, no, like this baby is just so much better than that. And it's still good, and I can still do it on the side, but it was a shift in my heart.
I think as your kids get older too, you're like, oh, that window
Yes,
is so small.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just want you to stay.
Yeah.
I want every child I have to stay within the ages of like 8 months to a year and a half. That's my sweet spot. Where I don't know if it's because of what I do all day and I have to think all day. I want to come home and get some kind of emotional response where I'm like, and, and they're like, I love you, Dad, without me having to think. It's like purely emotive, and I can like put in no effort, and then the attachment and bonding is so strong. Then they hit, they start to get 2 and 3, and they learn words like no and why, and they have their own perspective. But in the beginning, it's like pure just connectivity. And they're not like Jello still. The first 8 months, they're just Jello.
No, they have their whole personality, and it's
they do. I know. They do have their own personality, but they're still kind of Jello until about 8 months, and then it starts to form a little bit, and then it starts to crystallize, and they're not fighting you yet. So 8 months to a year and a half is my favorite time, and I wish all my kids stay there forever.
Yeah, no, that's a magic spot, and yeah. You look back at videos of your big kids at that age too, and it's like, you were fully there. You were fully there at that 8-month period.
Yes, it flourishes, it expands, it continues, but the uniqueness and the personality is still there. I also want to ask you this, to get a little more psychological with you personally. We'll start with Regina now.
Good, yeah. Start with her.
What are you working on in yourself?
Oh, wow.
Do you ever work on yourself, or are you just whatever?
Okay, so I'm going to bring up my favorite hobby, which is running. And that's where a lot of my self-work is done, if I'm being really honest. I combine a lot of prayers into a physical exercise, and I'm pretty disciplined about my practice. And the ability for me to rely.
I hate people like you, by the way.
Sorry. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. But that is
but I only hate you because it makes me feel insecure and I'm jealous and I'm not a runner and it makes me feel terrible about myself. But that's for me to work through. Go on.
Wow.
Yeah, please.
Well, that's my time. And I'll keep going.
It's so admirable. I'm obviously teasing you, but it is really admirable to do that.
But every day I kind of am like, okay, how am I going to do this? And it's a little puzzle that I have to figure out because I love it. And that's what motivates me to do it, is because I truly love the feeling of running as fast as I can. So it's worth it to me to do the struggle.
Regina, this is a long preamble of avoiding the question. What are you? I don't want to know how you work on yourself or the context within which you work on yourself. What is the thing that you're working on?
So when you're running, what are you working on?
Jim wants to know what you're working on.
Great. This is a deep question. Self-belief is a huge one.
Common.
Trust. Yeah, trust in the Lord. Acceptance of exactly where I am now, not where I want to be later.
Very mindfully Catholic there, right?
Okay.
No, I mean, that's Catholic mindfulness in a nutshell.
Yeah.
It's being where you are and accepting
Right.
where you are.
I think that's the thing. I think also finding joy, not just accepting it, but then searching for the joy in the moment too. Because you can accept where you are and still hate it, and but like loving that.
I just observed what we would call inappropriate affect. You're like finding joy. Like your face didn't look very joyful. As if it's like some terrible, awful challenge that you need to overcome. And then there's that joy thing.
I
It's
get
awful.
pooped on all day. Like you sometimes not that joyful. You gotta find it.
Yeah. All right, Jim. What about you? What are you working on?
Working on, I think just being accountable and relational. I think like I could go off the grid.
Yeah.
It'd just totally be like happy.
Yes.
I wouldn't say happy. It would be like I probably wouldn't be happy, but like I tend towards just like
distancing.
Yeah, distancing or just going off the grid. Like
yes.
if I could go work on a farm
Yeah.
and not see people for a while and just grind out something like that, I would probably tend towards that. But obviously that's not what I'm called to at all, and I know that's not what I'm supposed to. But like just entering into relationship with the Lord and reminding myself that like, wait, He's there, He loves me, like
yeah,
there's goodness stuff there, and just entering into relationships with the people around me and realizing that people are there to support you in all those different areas. But definitely just like I don't know, maybe holding myself account isn't the right way to say it, but I guess that's the way I think about it is holding yourself to account to the things and to the people in your life.
Yeah, no, there is a moral dimension to it. And what you're describing is a very common experience among men. I often say this, and this is a vulnerable thing for me to say on the air. I will never leave my wife and family, but I know where the door is.
Right.
For men, the challenge is to stay engaged, to be relational, to empathize, to stay connected.
Right.
The temptation is to distance. And that's why in the world, culturally, we have so many deadbeat dads who leave.
Right.
Women don't have that same problem. You don't have a lot of deadbeat moms. In fact, it's the flip side of the coin for women. We have so many helicopter controlling, overly involved moms. And the task for women is to take their foot off the gas and pull back. And your children will let you know that you need to. Like, Mom, my friends are here. Stop rubbing my hair. Stop kissing me. Don't make me say I love you. Like, back off, right? Women, like the helicopter moms in the world. Of course, there is exceptions here, of course. But I'm saying by and large, as a constitutive dimension to being masculine or feminine, it's complementary in a way, right? So Jim, when you say like in some ways there's this temptation for me to go out on a farm and do my own thing, and like it's easier. And that's a very, I get it. Yeah. And it's in some ways it's a very, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not saying you're immature, but there's an immature dimension to who we are as men. Yeah. There's a boyhoodness about that desire to like go off on my own and do my own thing and not engage in family.
Right.
But it doesn't even have to be family. If you're not married, it's in relationships, it's in connection. If you're a priest, engage in your parish rather than, reading theology books or playing video games. I mean, it's very easy to hide as a priest as well, right? It's very easy to disengage from a masculine perspective. And like I said, like, women aren't off the hook either. I think on the feminine side of things, it's the Blessed Virgin, right? Who embodies letting go.
Yeah.
She let her
die. Right.
Yeah. Right. Right. Talk about, can you imagine the temptation for her to step up and control things?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's why no other creature has experienced more pain and agony than Our Lady.
Mhm.
In her purity, she models letting go.
Yes.
But that's a universal experience too for all of us, which is that we see those that we love suffer, and then we're faced with the question, what do I do with that?
Mhm.
Especially in our personal lives. I'll tell you, for me,
Mm.
knowing what I know and learning what I've learned and seeing those I love so deeply make mistakes and know that they're not asking me for help. And if I offer help, they're not going to listen. That's very different than a client coming to me and saying, hey, help me. Okay, we're on the same page. Now I can help you. But in my personal life, it's like watching car crashes in slow motion.
Yes.
I see you doing it and I love you so much and it's so painful. And I see you doing this thing that I know is going to end in disaster. And then it ends in disaster and there's nothing I can do about it. My only recourse is to the Blessed Mother in those times because she knows exactly what that's like.
Yeah. It's almost in a mother's natural disorder to enable. I mean, that's a real hard thing to stop once you start.
Yeah. Letting
Yeah.
your children make their own mistakes.
Yes.
Not telling them what to do, not being too involved.
Right.
No, it's
Or not letting the car crash. Sometimes the car crash is the
Needs to
natural
happen.
consequence of things that need to occur. And that's a very difficult thing to stand back and say, okay, I'm gonna let the natural consequence occur.
And trust God and pray and trust God with the consequences.
Right.